Hey y'all, it is Wednesday and today I am going on to read chapter 21, so I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. Yesterday we left off with May Tuck being taken back to the jailhouse in Tree Gap by the constable, and Winnie also going with the constable but reassuring the Tuck family that everything was going to be fine. So today we're going to go on to chapter 21. Pause the video right now, go get your book if you don't already have it. It starts on page 106, and we're going to be reading about Winnie being back home. So the setting has changed. Think about how the setting has changed. We've spent the last basically 24 hours at the Tuck house, kind of going back and forth a little bit because the man in the yellow suit was talking to the Foster family at their house. But now Winnie's on her way back home at the end of chapter 20. So chapter 21, Natalie Babbitt picks back up with Winnie's story and Winnie being back home with her grandma and her mom and dad. Okay, so here we go. Page 106, chapter 21. Oh, by the way, if you did your packet for chapter 20, which you were assigned to do yesterday, hopefully you got that done. Don't panic if you didn't. But I will be posting answers to that. So I'd like for you to do it on your own first because you guys need to show me that you're thinking about the story. I mean, we're talking about it together on video, but you still need to be using your brain to think about what's happening in the story and how things are kind of unfolding and how you're processing it. So you're using your packet to do that. But I will give you the answers for chapter 20. There is not a packet page for chapter 21, so no worries there. All you're doing today is listening and thinking. Here we go. Winnie pulled up her little rocking chair up to her bedroom window and sat down. The rocking chair had been given to her when she was very small, but she still squeezed into it sometimes when no one was looking because the rocking made her almost remember something pleasant, something soothing that would never quite come up to the surface of her mind, and tonight she wanted to be soothed. The constable had brought her home. They had seized her at once, flinging the gate open and swooping down on her, her mother weeping, her father speechless, hugging her to him, her grandmother babbling with excitement. There was a painful pause when the constable told them she had gone away of her own free will, but it only lasted a moment. They would not believe it, and her grandmother said, "It was the elves. We heard them. They must have bewitched her." So even though Winnie was clear to the constable that she actually just went with the Tucks on her own, when the constable told the Foster family that, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't get over the fact that she would have done that. So instead of thinking that she could have possibly just gone there on her own, instead they decide to believe that the elves bewitched her, which, I mean, Grandma doesn't know the story. So Grandma still thinks the elves are the ones that are making the music in the woods. That makes sense that Grandma would think that she would be bewitched by them. All right, well, I'm on page 107, first paragraph. And so they had borne her into the house, and after she had taken the bath they insisted upon, they fed and petted her and refused with little laughs and murmurs to accept her answers to their questions. She had gone away with the Tucks because, well, she wanted to. The Tucks had been very kind to her, had given her flapjacks, taken her fishing. The Tucks were good and gentle people. They don't want to hear that either. All this would have been swept away in any case, however, this good impression of her friends, which she was trying to create, when she told them what had happened to the man in the yellow suit. Had they really given him the wood in exchange for finding her? They had. So Mom and Dad actually admitted that they gave her the wood, or they gave the man in the yellow suit the wood in order to find her. Well, perhaps he wouldn't want it now. May had hit him with a shotgun. He was very sick. They received this news with mingled hope and horror. And her father said, "I suppose the wood will be ours again if that man should. That is, if he doesn't." So in one way, Dad's thinking, well, now we don't have to worry about someone taking the wood. We'll get the wood back. That blackmail would be over. So he's kind of got that side of him that's going, this would work out to our advantage. But then this other side, this human side, that would be very sad if someone passed away. You mean if he dies, Winnie said flatly, and they had sat back shocked. Soon after, they put her to bed with many kisses, but they peered at her anxiously over their shoulders as they tiptoed out of her bedroom, as if they sensed that she was different now from what she had been before, as if some part of her had slipped away. This makes sense to me because she's been gone for, at this point, 2 days. And because she's been gone, that innocence that she had as this 10-year-old girl and never really seeing what it was going to be like in the world is now back home. She's been out in the world. She's been away from her family. That little bit of innocence that she had has kind of been lost, and now she seems more grown up to her family. And not only does she seem more grown up to her family, but she even says something like, you mean if he dies? So she's talking in a way that she's never talked to them before. Kind of this sense of reality, like this is what it is. And I feel like some of that reason is because of the conversation that Tuck had with her on the pond that day that he was explaining the circle of life and trying to get her to understand why the secret had to be held. So remember, this is late 1700s, possibly early 1800s. 10-year-olds were very mature at that time, but she still had that innocence of a 10-year-old. It's just she's losing that a little bit now that she's in a situation where she sees so much happening. All right, page 108 at the top. Well, thought Winnie, crossing her arms on the windowsill, she was different. Things had happened to her that were hers alone and had nothing to do with them. It was the first time, and no amount of telling about it could help them understand or share what she felt. It was satisfying and lonely, both at once. She rocked, gazing out at the twilight, and the soothing feeling came reliably into her bones. That feeling, it tied her to them, to her mother, her father, her grandmother, with strong threads too ancient and precious to be broken. But there were new threads now, tugging and insistent, which tied her just as firmly to the Tucks. So she has this connection with her family, but now she has this different connection with the Tuck family. So here's how I would think about that. If you're close with your family, you automatically have that tie with your own family, maybe grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, aunt, uncle. But if you have a best friend that you spend a lot of time at best friend's house or a lot of time with best friend's family, you have that connection to them too. So that's kind of what Winnie's going through right now. She has this connection with her family that she knows is a strong connection and binds her to her family and makes her loyal to her family. But she now has this new connection to these people that she calls her friends, the Tucks. So it would be like you having a connection with your family, but also having this connection with another family, like maybe a best friend's family or your neighbor's family or something like that. Winnie watched the sky slide into blackness over the wood outside her window. There was not the least hint of a breeze to soften the heavy August night. And then over the treetops on the faraway horizon, there was a flash of white, heat lightning. Again and again it throbbed without a sound. It was like pain, she thought, and suddenly she longed for a thunderstorm. She cradled her head in her arms and closed her eyes. At once the image of the man in the yellow suit rose up. She could see him again, sprawled motionless on the sun-blanched grass. He can't die, she whispered, thinking of May. He mustn't. And then she considered his plans for the water in the spring, and Tuck's voice saying they'd all come running like pigs to slaps. And she found herself thinking, if it's true about the spring, then he has to die. He must. And that's why she did it. So now we have Winnie herself going through this moral dilemma. So the original moral dilemma was May's. What does she do? Winnie's being ready to be taken by the man in the yellow suit. They're trying to keep the secret. The man in the yellow suit wants to make this whole show out of the spring water and selling it, and it's a nightmare. So May makes her decision and hits the man in the yellow suit. Right or wrong, That was her decision. Now Winnie is being faced with a moral dilemma. On one side of her, she wants the man in the yellow suit to live. That's her humanity. That's her empathy. But on the other side, she's thinking, if he does, then it saves the spring. So if he lives, he gets the wood, May would maybe sit in jail for a while, but she's not going to go to the gallows. If he does die, that puts May at the gallows, but her family gets the wood back. I mean, there's all these things going on in this little girl's head. I don't know how she's able to comprehend it all. But she does start to understand why May did what she did. Then she heard hoofbeats on the road below, a horse hurrying into the village, and not long after there were footsteps and a knocking on the door. Winnie crept out of her room and crouched in the shadows at the top of the stairs. It was the constable. So the constable is at the foster house, and Winnie is at the top of the stairs listening in on the conversation. She heard him saying, "So that's that, Mr. Foster. We can't press no kidnapping charges since your little girl claims there wasn't no kidnapping. But it doesn't matter anyway now. The doc just got back a few minutes ago. That feller, the one you sold your land to, he's dead." What? What? Okay. The man in the yellow suit has passed, has moved on, but there are consequences to this, okay? Fosters get their land back. The secret is safe. But what about May? All of these rising actions, and we're still in the rising action, but oh, so close to the climax. Because what do you think the climax could be at this point? What would be the turning point? Yeah, what's going to happen to May? Okay. There was a pause and the murmur of other voices, then a match striking. The acrid smell of fresh cigar smoke. Yep, she got him a good one, all right. He never even come to. So it's an open and shut case since I seen her do it. Eyewitness, no question about it. They'll hang her for sure. Winnie went back to her room and climbed into bed. She lay in the dark, propped up on the pillows, and stared at the lighter square of her window, at the heat lightning throbbing. It was like pain, she thought again, a dull pain on the fringes of the sky. May had killed the man in the yellow suit, and she had meant to kill him. Winnie had killed a wasp once, in fear and anger, just in time to spare herself a stinging. She had slammed at the wasp with a heavy book and killed it, and then seeing its body broken, the thin wings stilled, she had wished it were alive again. She had wept for that wasp. Was May weeping now for the man in the yellow suit? In spite of her wish to spare the world, did she wish he were alive again? There was no way of knowing, but May had done what she thought she had to do. Winnie closed her eyes to shut out the silent pulsing of the lightning. Now she would have to do something. She had no idea what, but something. May Tuck must not go to the gallows. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 21. Tomorrow I read chapter 22. We find out what Winnie wants to do, how she is going to help with this situation. How could this 10-year-old girl possibly help with a situation where there is a woman in jail because she killed a man? We'll find out. And not only will we find that out tomorrow, but Winnie's promise that everything would be okay kind of comes back around. And, are you ready for this? Chapter 22. Don't read it without me. Chapter 22, Jesse makes an appearance. So we will find out what Jesse has to say about all this too. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow, Thursday. Hugs and kisses to all of you. Don't forget to send me an email every once in a while. Send me some pictures. Hey, shout out to Emily. Thanks for sending me the pictures of your cats and your sisters. That was super cute. I loved it. And shout out to Joey. Thanks for sending me the pictures of you listening to the story with your headphones in. I love that too. Guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.